Well, welcome to the podcast, Sean.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jack. It's great to actually finally kind of meet in person.
Yeah, it's a meeting of sorts, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I've been following you on social media for ages now, so this is a nice excuse to have a natter. And obviously, more recently, you've been talking about this topic of celebrities cropping dogs' ears. My difficulty with this is the theme of this season's podcast is rivers, so I'm struggling to connect celebrity ear cropping with rivers, but I'm sure that you've visited a river or two in your time.
I sure have. Yeah,
There
yeah,
we go.
absolutely.
That's the connection.
I love me a river. Love me a river.
So if any listeners are sticklers for, hang on a minute, this wasn't to do with the theme. Sean has confirmed that he's visited a river, so we're
I
all good.
mean, if you want, I can tell a river anecdote that happened recently. But
Go on then. Let's start off with that. Give us a river anecdote.
shall I?
Yeah, why
Oh,
not?
I was kind of bluffing, but I can actually.
Oh, I've called you.
There was some.
Don't play poker with me, Sean. I'll get you.
Oh, no, I can do. I can do it. I can do it. I recently set a trail camera for kingfishers on my local river in London, the Brent, and I got some good footage with a trail cam and a macro lens, but not quite good enough. So I went back, like you, had to be perfection with nailing the shot, and I put it out again and measured the distance from the macro lens to the bamboo cane that I stuck in the river, and I thought I'm going to get the perfect shot now of kingfishers. And then when I was at work somewhere else, the river went in flood because we had lashings of rain. I thought all was lost, but I got the trail camera back from a litter picker about 6 weeks later, and the footage was stunning.
Oh, well done. That's good.
Yeah.
Good for them to not pocket it as well.
Was a guy I know, and I put out on social media, and he was like, "I'm pretty sure this is Sean." So yeah, we got it back, and we got some good kingfisher footage.
Oh,
so
awesome.
there's my river. There's my river theme for you.
There we go. We're on brand. We're certainly on brand. Well, let's talk about today's topic. So, for listeners who maybe aren't aware of this and don't know about it, what is ear cropping in dogs then?
Yeah, so it's a traditional surgery that's done to dogs basically to remove the floppy part of their ear and give them a kind of more erect look, where the kind of tough, kind of rigid cartilage at the base of the ear stands up. In certain breeds, it's very pronounced and very obvious. Things like Dobermans, where you see these pointy up ears, really, really erect. And in other breeds, not so obvious, where it's just like little short, stumpy ears left behind. But the tradition comes from two reasons, I suppose. One is some of the breeds, like some of the bull breeds and mastiffs and things that were used for fighting back in the day, they would take off the loose floppy parts of the ear because they would get ripped in fighting. So there was a function behind it back in the day when dog fighting was legal and popular. In other breeds, like the kind of security type breeds or protection type breeds, like Dobermans and stuff, it really was to give them an intimidating look and make them look more fierce and aggressive.
Right.
And we still see those kind of two main sort of groups of dogs where it's being done today. The problem is it's legal in some countries, including the USA. And I think if you talk to a lot of people about, Dobermans, they just think that erect ear look is normal for a Doberman. They don't realize actually that's cosmetic surgery that's done to the floppy ear to make it look like that. So, we're global now, and the internet has a lot to answer for, and social media does. People are seeing this look and liking the look, and it's becoming kind of glamorized by celebrities in popular culture, and it's coming over here again, even though it's illegal here.
Because obviously, I guess it can get confusing for the general public because you see breeds like a German Shepherd or a French Bulldog, which kind of have that sort of look naturally. And then you've got breeds like, say, Dobermans and Pit Bulls, which would naturally have floppy ears. So you can understand how someone who doesn't know anything would not realize that it's not natural.
Absolutely, yeah. And the look is so popular, with Dobermans, for example. All of the Doberman imagery you see coming from the States is cropped and tail docked Dobermans as well. They all look like that spiky look. Yeah. So yeah, it's normalized. And I'd say 50% of the people I talk to about this who aren't really kind of up to speed on it are like, oh, I thought those ears were normally like that, So it is something that's kind of I guess goes under the radar a lot, but we're seeing it more and more in the UK, and it's becoming a really worrying welfare trend,
So yeah, it's interesting you point that out then. So how does it affect the dogs? I mean, why is it a problem? I suppose again, like if you don't know about it, you're like, oh, what's the harm in doing that to the dog? So why is it an issue?
Yeah, well, it's illegal in this country on cruelty grounds. So the
Right.
reason it is illegal, it's called a mutilation,
Hmm.
and a mutilation is defined as cosmetic surgery removing functional tissue from an animal for aesthetic reasons. So, certain things, certain surgeries, elective surgeries, or ones we choose for our pets, are allowed because they're promoting welfare, they're preventing disease. I think I'm talking about neutering in particular. We're allowed to do these things because they have benefit for the animal as an individual, for the animal as a population. Um, Mutilations are a totally different category. Basically, it's things like chopping off your dog's tail because you think that looks better, chopping off your dog's ears because you think it looks better. In the US, debarking. They actually remove the vocal cords of dogs that are barking
Oh
too
my
much to
God.
solve that problem. Declawing cats because they're damaging your furniture. We would consider that in the UK a mutilation. It's not valid. It's not,
Are you not allowed to declaw cats?
not in the UK, no.
No. So,
Unless it's for medical reasons.
oh, okay. Am I confusing this with trimming your cat's claws and completely removing them?
Yeah, so trimming them is
Okay.
fine. You can trim
Okay.
your cat's claws, but declawing is basically removing the bottom digit of your
I'm with.
cat's
Okay. All right.
toe,
Okay.
to remove the entire claw and last digit.
Okay.
So these things are cruel, basically.
Yeah.
They're unnecessary. They are purely done, if people were very honest about it, they are purely done for either maintaining tradition
Mm.
or because you like the look of them. There's no medical benefits, there's no welfare benefits for the animal. And basically, what it involves is it's surgery, right? So it's chopping off this healthy, functional tissue.
Mm.
It's then all of the pain that goes along with that during and after surgery. As a vet, we control pain in surgeries, but we can't eliminate it. Surgery by its nature is painful. We then have risks involved in going under anesthetic for this if the animal's lucky enough to get an anesthetic and pain relief. We have post-op infection. We have, especially with the breeds like Dobermans, where they want to have this erect, pointy-eared look, they then do a thing called taping and splinting and posting of the ears. So they basically splint them in an erect position and bandage them and tie them together and keep them bandaged for weeks, if not months on end, in order to get the ears to stay upright. So the dog has to endure the discomfort of bandaging, bandage changes, and the ears being kind of splinted up in that position to get that desired look. So
Yeah.
it's crazy lengths that we're going to in putting animals through something for basically fashion, cosmetic surgery.
For an accessory.
An accessory, exactly.
Isn't it?
Or a status symbol, or,
Yeah.
I want my dog to look tough like they do in America, so therefore I'm going to do this to them. And I guess the big issue is because it's illegal here, people are getting around it by either importing dogs that have already been done elsewhere, we don't know under what conditions, or some absolutely dodgy breeders and dealers are doing it behind closed doors to dogs, probably without anesthetic, without pain relief.
Right. What actually in the UK you suspect?
In the UK.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What age does this happen? Like, does it have to? Do they have to do this when the dogs are young, or do they do it when? Or does it not matter?
They generally do it to entire litters of puppies.
Yeah.
Sometimes before they're weaned, breeders are basically using a scalpel or scissors and cutting the floppy part of the puppy's ears off.
Jesus.
And allowing them to heal with mum, basically. What we're not seeing kind of the tip of the iceberg is the dogs, on the street in the UK now that are done, and we suspect have been done here in the UK illegally. Not all of them are imported by any means, especially when we look at the bully breeds and things. Some of the very expensive protection dogs that are being imported from Europe, yes, those ones have been done elsewhere, sometimes illegally, sometimes legally, but we're definitely seeing way more dogs with cropped ears that are not imported. So therefore they've been done behind closed doors, and we're not going to see the butchery that goes on. We're not going to see the consequences when it goes wrong. A few times there was an awful, shocking story which led to prosecution. of a puppy like dumped in a skip with horrific infected ear stumps left behind, and they killed it and dumped it in a skip in order to
Jesus.
avoid going to the vet. So
Yeah.
there's a huge behind closed doors welfare issue going on here with this.
What's the consequences? So, say if someone is found to be doing this to a dog, like presumably, I don't know, would it be would prison or
It
fine
is
or what?
imprisonment,
Is
fines, or ban from keeping animals,
yeah,
breeding animals, things like that as well. So
yeah, rightly
um,
so.
I think the person who sold, and there's lots of high profile celebrities who've bought into this look, knowingly or unknowingly. The singer Leanne from Little Mix has one of these dogs, a kind of bully breed, XL
Really?
bully, and her supplier of the dog has been prosecuted and been imprisoned for
Was that a
animal
UK
cruelty.
based supplier? Yeah.
UK-based supplier. They proved that he was cropping dogs' ears here in the UK illegally, so he's been fined or imprisoned. I'm not sure which.
So you mentioned I mean, not that I'm particularly up on current celebrity culture, but you mentioned Leanne from Little Mix. So is there any other celebs that we can name and shame? Is there anyone who's particularly bought into this?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of people would disagree with me when I say I'm not up for a witch hunt, because
No. Okay.
I know I have spoken out when celebs do this. I have spoken out and been extremely vocal, and some would say a little bit too harsh on social media about it. But I think the only way that we're going to actually shift the culture around this is to call out celebs and say, what you've done, you may not have taken the ears off this dog yourself. You may not even have known this was an issue, but you parading this dog and
Mm,
glamorizing this look on social media is causing a real problem. So we're seeing, a few musicians, sports people, footballers in particular, buying these dogs because a lot of the dogs they're buying are as protection dogs. They're
right.
expensive. By flaunting them on social media, they're saying, A, I'm wealthy. B, I'm rich enough and have a amazing house and
It's a
cars
status
and
thing.
things to need a protection dog, and I can afford one because they're like 20 grand to import one from Serbia, top trained protection Doberman. So it is a status thing and it's a showing off thing. So therefore, I and many other vets and animal welfare people are going to call it out and say this is shallow, vacuous celebrity fad that really needs to stop. And this look is not something that's desirable whatsoever. And people need to recognize the torment and the cruelty and pain that dogs go through to achieve this look.
Do you think it's a case with a lot of these celebrities that it's ignorance? They just don't realize what's happening, or is it more sinister than that?
I do think there's a level of ignorance
Mm,
involved. And, although I've called out, some celebrities on social media and things, I think there is a level of being told by the breeder or importer of some of these dogs that these dogs are top notch, amazing
yeah.
genetics, incredible. You can't get them here. They just so happen to have cropped ears because that's legal in that country. They're obviously playing it down. I've said
Yeah.
to people, do you think that the best source of info on these dogs and what they go through is the person charging you £20,000 to have one?
Yeah.
Probably not, because that's
Yeah.
going to affect their bottom line. And these people are kind of touting lots of dubious information and myths around why ear cropping is done, saying it helps a protection dog do their job better, they can hear better,
Mm,
it prevents them getting ear infections, like all kinds of things that sound legitimate to someone who's not really in the know. So yeah, I think there is a level of just kind of ignorance or being kind of brainwashed or convinced. But I think we have to speak out on it and we have to get celebs to go, actually, I heard that my football teammate had a real backlash on this and I'm not going to fall for it, or I'm going to do
yeah.
my research first. Because I think if they did their research, they'd realize why it's banned here and they wouldn't support it.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, there's no benefits. All that's horseshit, essentially, isn't it? There's like here better and cleaner. There's no benefit.
Well, I mean, some of the excuses we've heard are absolutely ridiculous. There was one that came up where this girl ran out of excuses basically from another vet who I know who was talking to her about it. And she said, well, actually, she put out to her followers, actually, Dobermans suffer with a condition of the cartilage in their ears. And if they're not chopped off, they can get develop brain tumors from these tumors of the ears that go into their brain. It's like, what? So really, really clutching at straws. But the ear infection thing is like, could your dog get damage to the pinna or the floppy part of its ear? Yeah, it could, if it's shaking its head or has an ear infection. But I say, like, that's like saying chop off your toddler's fingers in case they got caught in the door. If their fingers aren't there, sure, they can't ever get damaged for the rest of your child's life, but they kind of need their fingers, and it's not justified to chop off all toddlers' fingers to
No,
prevent
not
some
yet.
accidents to
No,
fingers.
no.
The ear infection thing as well, I say, if really we wanted to kind of reduce the risk of ear infections, we'd be cutting off Cocker Spaniel's ears that are, too long and actually cause ear infections.
Yes, yeah. No, exactly.
So none of the logic or the excuses stand up. And I think, again, it's a pseudo criminal operation that are getting around this legal loophole to bring in these dogs that they're deeming to be really desirable and amazing, and then basically selling them at a huge profit. And then that's the protection dog side. But the bully breed culture side is totally different. I would say a fraction of those dogs you're seeing on the street are actually imported. Most of them have been done illegally
really?
here.
And that's again like a bravado thing, do you think, or is it actually like they want to fight them?
No, well, dog fighting occasionally happens, but that's not the reason.
No, it's more okay.
It's bravado culture.
Okay.
It's quite literally, look at me and my dog is Billy Big Bollocks.
Yeah.
And it's coming from, again, US culture, hip hop culture,
yeah.
breeding these dogs and putting massive chains on them and breeding them to be these incredibly top heavy muscular dogs that almost look like they're on steroids and look extremely intimidating, and look more intimidating when they've got their little spiky ears, basically.
Yeah.
It's a culture thing.
It's terrible, isn't it? My neighbour's got like a pit bull cross thing, and it is absolutely hench. Obviously, it's got normal floppy ears. I mean, it's soft as shit. Like if you go outside, it just
they're
wants
lovely dogs.
Oh, they're fantastic. It licks you, and it's absolutely lovely. But if you didn't, it's one of those things. I guess it's people see those dogs and almost want to cross the street. But it's such a shame because they're lovely breeds. A lot of these big dogs are, but they just get this bad rap, and obviously ear cropping is not going to help. With perceptions of them, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. I was in Wales last week at Cardiff Dogs Home, and they're just getting so many of these bully breeds in, XL bullies and micro bullies as well. And they're getting them dumped because they're just churning out several litters of pups, and then they're dumping them at the shelter. And some of them have really had their ears like butchered and done very, very badly. And then they're difficult to rehome. Sweetest, loveliest little dogs.
Yeah.
And really, really, wanting to please and lovely with people. But they've got a reputation, and if they come from effectively criminal outfits that are mutilating them for a look and selling the puppies and breeding litter after litter, people don't want to take the risk of rehoming those dogs because they don't know what their background is.
No, which is such a shame. You've mentioned Dobermans and kind of bully breeds. Are they the kind of main two, or does it happen with other breeds as well?
It does happen with other breeds as part of the breed standard in the US with the US Kennel Club, which has a lot to answer for.
Yeah.
It's actually part of the tradition of several breeds. And it's actually called for in the show ring in several breeds as well as the breed standard that they have to be.
Oh, so they actually encourage it.
The Kennel Club in America encourages it.
Okay.
So it's part of the preserving the tradition of the breed, which is bonkers. But basically Great Danes, Boxers, Schnauzers, giant and mini Schnauzers, and some other breeds, some of the Mastiffs, things like Cane Corso, so the Italian Mastiff. That's often used as a kind of status or protection dog over here now. We're seeing them imported with cropped ears as well.
Wow.
So it's across a wider variety of breeds in the US than here.
Yeah.
But the main kind of tribes we're seeing here are your Doberman and Cane Corso as protection dogs, very expensive, probably imported, and a few copycats. And then a huge culture in the kind of bull breed community, which is mainly being done behind closed doors, I would say.
And is it more common? I mean, you mentioned the US, and I think Russia's the other one, but do most countries, they just outright ban it? It's illegal.
It's in most countries in Europe, it's illegal as well. Yeah. So they're coming in from Serbia, from Russia, and things like that. And we don't know how they're being done over there. We just because it's legal in their country of origin doesn't mean it's done well, doesn't mean the welfare is taken care of. We just don't know. But basically, there's a lot of people profiteering from this now.
So if people want to find out more about ear cropping, I mean, I guess it's not a subject, like reading in an afternoon, but if maybe they're kind of concerned or they want to help in some way, what can Joe Public do?
Yeah, so the big thing that we're trying to get done, so I've been helping kind of campaign on this for quite a while now. What we want really is to close that legal loophole and prevent dogs being, mutilated behind closed doors here, because the legal import thing is just a smokescreen for people to get away with doing it here. So we're trying to get Parliament and government to look at this. Obviously, the last few weeks or months have been a bit up in the air government-wise.
Yeah, it's been chaos.
Yeah, so animal welfare, unfortunately, has fallen to the bottom of the list, but a group called the FOAL Group, Focus on Animal Law, FOAL group, are probably a good place to start. British Veterinary Association, the BVA, also have produced lots of information on this. I've got some highlighted reels or highlighted stories on my Instagram about it, kind of explaining it and showing some of the celebrity kind of culture around it. But basically, we're asking Parliament to hear what's called the Kept Animals Bill. So it's a new bill that covers various areas of animal welfare that are lacking in our current legislation, including live exports of farm animals and keeping primates as pets, and closing this legal importation of mutilated dogs. If it's rescue, people say, what about rescue dogs? What if people are bringing in rescue dogs? There will be exemptions and common sense things if you have a dog that's already been cropped. We're not saying those dogs all have to go. Like, that's not it at all. It's about preventing dogs in future being butchered behind closed doors. So that has been heard twice. There's obviously complex issues in the bill. It's been heard twice. It's had revisions, and it was due back for a third hearing and probably passing, unfortunately, on the day of the Queen's funeral. So it got cancelled again.
Yeah.
And then in the weeks that have ensued, as you say, Westminster's been in chaos. So we have no date on when that's going to happen, but there is a petition that you can get through the FOAL Group. And it's just reached 100,000 signatures, but we'd like people to keep adding to it, keep sharing it, and put pressure on the government to finally close this loophole and get this stopped.
Yeah, that makes sense. Has there been a rise then? Like, is it something? Is it just that we're noticing it more, or is it actually increasing?
It's increasing massively.
Really?
So the RSPCA estimated a 621% increase from 2018 to last year.
Jesus, wow.
Something like that. So it's gone up absolutely massively in the last few years, especially. And part of it, again, is just it's driven by social media culture and glamorizing it. So I think between, between Kendall and Kylie Jenner, who have a large following, and a couple of footballers, and Leanne from Little Mix, and a few kind of the most recent high profile people, it was something like over 650 million followers between them, and they've been posting these dogs. So you're getting an audience that basically are like, oh, I idolize and glamorize anything you do. You see it in the comments when they are called out. It's like, he didn't crop the dog's ears, it wasn't his fault, he's rescued it, he's adopted it, she's given this dog a lovely home. It's like, okay, but people have to take some responsibility for the fact that they're still churning out images of these dogs and they're glamorizing it, and most people won't connect with the hidden message behind it. They'll just go, oh, that's a cool looking dog, I want one. So I think need to be more responsible in kind of using dogs on social media.
Yeah, no, definitely. Have any sort of recognized it and gone, oh, you mentioned earlier, a lot of them are kind of ignorant to it, and they're like, oh, I didn't realize this. And then, I don't know, it's a hard thing, isn't it? I guess because if it's their pet, they're like you mentioned, they're hardly going to want to give them up. But at the same time, you don't want to glamorize this horrific mutilation. So has it got through to any of them?
It's got through to them when it's attracted bad PR.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Or their agent has gone, oh shit, let's formulate a response. So a few examples. I mean, two footballers recently, James Maddison and Jesse Lingard, both had them and posted about them on the same day. There was a lot of backlash. It is good to see there is more there are more negative comments appearing or challenging comments appearing whenever anyone does this. So they, I think, did either of them do anything? Not much, basically. The one before that was Joey Essex, which was quite an interesting one.
Yes, yeah, I was following that.
He put up a Doberman with cropped ears and said, you know, welcome to new member of the family, and put a little devil emoji with spiky horns on. And, you know, there was huge backlash and it got picked up in the media. And he actually went back on it and said, I'm actually giving the dog back. I realize this isn't a responsible decision for me as an animal lover. He had been photographed with the dog over weeks and weeks. So, you know, it wasn't, he said, I was adopting it from a friend or from family or something. It's like, unlikely, but who knows? Allegedly. But he decided to send the dog back, and he got even more backlash for that. But, you know, at least he said he didn't want to be representing ear cropping or owner of an ear crop dog now that he knew. And he said he was ignorant too. He didn't know what was going on. Other people, you know, athletes. Marcus Rashford has one. And for all the good he's done, it's quite disappointing then to see him with that. Nicola Adams, you know, Olympian, she has one and posts about it on social media. And it's like, what we're asking as vets and animal welfare people is love your dog, keep your dog, give them a wonderful home, but please just don't post them on social media anymore. We just don't need this trend to, you know, fuel to the fire by you know, highly esteemed athletes and celebrities basically saying, look at my cool dog. It's not big, it's not clever, it doesn't look good, it doesn't do anything for the dog's welfare. I would argue it makes you look like a bit of an idiot, so please stop.
No, I think it's absolutely fantastic what you're doing, Sean, because it's innocent enough to the public who don't realise how that dog got there to that point. So they're like, oh, it's just they think that's how that dog looks, or oh, it's not a big deal, when actually it's quite a horrific ordeal for them. So I think keep doing what you're doing. It's fantastic to kind of champion these animals that sadly don't have a voice without people like yourself. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Yeah. It's something I'm quite passionate about. I just think it's so unnecessary, you know, and it's just like, I don't know, it just feeds into this more and more vacuous culture of like, our consequences have actions, folks. Like, we're meant to be a nation of dog lovers, but we're basically allowing this to go on behind closed doors and to get more and more popular. It's like, what direction of travel are we in? You know, it's like we're going backwards.
No, exactly. It's a real shame. Before we head off, you've also got a podcast, haven't you? If you want to,
I do, and I've been meaning to get you on for quite a while, so we might have to do.
Oh, really? More than happy to.
Yeah, sure. So it's called Sean's Wildlife, and it's in its 5th season now. I've kind of slowed down a little bit recently.
Oh, congratulations!
But,
wow.
Thank you. Yeah. I started it before the pandemic and lockdown, and recorded a couple of episodes and never got around to editing them. And the original premise was ramblings in nature with Sean McCormack. So I'd bring a guest out and we go off somewhere and have a chat and have a talk. And then lockdown happened, and obviously
a little bit harder,
little bit indoors and confined. So I decided, well, look, no better time to do a podcast. So I started getting guests on every week on a Monday evening and doing a Zoom call like we're doing now, and racking up the episodes. So it's mainly around conservation, nature, and rewilding. There's a few kind of more veterinary related topics and welfare topics in there as well.
Fantastic. Is that just wherever people listen to the podcast will be able to find that presumably?
Yeah, I was going to say on all podcast platforms. So it's on Acast, and it's on Spotify, iTunes, and most podcast apps. Basically, Sean's Wildlife.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely go check that out. But no, look, really appreciate you coming on and highlighting perhaps a slightly downer issue, but you've got to talk about these things. It can't be all chipper and chip all the time. We need to kind of highlight some of these things that are unfortunately going on. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of doom and gloom at the moment, but dogs are putting a smile on our faces all the time. So it's kind of, we owe them, you know, a little bit of advocacy and a bit of a fight with this to bring it to government.
No, the amount of joy that those little fluff balls bring. Have you got a dog? By the way? Or?
Sadly not. No, I was talking to my colleague. I kind of hummed and hawed, is it the right time? Is it the right time? But I live in a flat in London and I'm quite busy, and I'm like, it's not the right time.
No, that's fair enough. I've just
But I work with
literally,
dogs.
I literally 4 days ago have just got a puppy
Oh
Dachshund,
yeah.
little short-haired mini
Oh yeah.
Dachshund. So we've already got one long-haired mini, and now we've got
Yeah.
another short-haired. So that's
So it's chaos your end as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite nice to come up to the office for an hour and get her, because she's lovely, but she's just all over me and thinks my beard's a chew toy and
Yeah.
is chaos. So yeah, that's it's lovely to have a puppy, but I'm also remembering maybe why I should have not had a puppy. But no, she's great. She's lovely. She's a
It's a
little
lot of
terrier.
work. Congrats.
It is a lot of work, but no, she is lovely, and it's great to have another dog in the house. So I've never had two dogs before, so they're kind of bouncing off each other, which is fun.
It's good. We always had two dogs, or we had two dogs growing up, and it was definitely good for them. But yeah, no, I get all the fun of working with dogs every day and borrowing my friends' dogs when they go on holiday, and then being able to hand them back, which is
That's
great.
it. Yeah, all the rewards, none of the minuses.
I'm like the cool uncle, you know.
The doggy uncle.
Exactly.
That's what it needs to be. Well, look, buddy, appreciate you coming on, and I'll see you at some point, I'm sure.
No problem. Yeah, nice one, Jack. Thanks.